القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We wanted to take a few minutes to reflect upon Surah Al-Qari'ah, given that one of its key lessons teaches us much about the current life that we live. It teaches us how to prioritize our life. It teaches us the value of time, the importance of action, and at the core, accountability. Surah Al-Qari'ah, some have translated it as the calamity, meaning a great event which is a disaster or which causes distress. It is a surah which was revealed in the early Meccan period. It opens up with the word Al-Qari'ah, and the word Al-Qari'ah constitutes the title of the surah, and in many ways deals with the overall reality of the surah as far as the themes that the surah is touching upon. Distinct aspects of the Day of Judgment. The surah's main concerns have to do with the shock that the Day of Judgment brings on. The announcement itself of the Day of Judgment is a calamity, meaning that is a disaster for the current state. It is an abolition or destruction of the current state of affairs. The word is strong, and it emotes, or it pushes, it elicits some feelings from us when we understand the word. It begins the surah with Al-Qari'ah. Is almost as if to say, wow, this calamity that has hit me, right? This calamity which is taking up the world is maybe most exemplified or noted when we look at what took place in Turkey recently with the earthquake. I had asked a brother that I know who was privy to what was going on there, what is the state of affairs there when the earthquake first hit Turkey and Syria? And he said, 𝐀𝐥-𝐐𝐚𝐫𝐚𝐡, Mashhad 𝐂𝐿-�qiyamah. It's like a scene from the Day of Judgment, because everything was destroyed, people were dead. It was a scenario in which life had stopped. So the surah begins Al-Qari'ah. Ma Al-Qari'ah. The Quran stops and asks, what is this calamity? First it begins with the calamity. Then the question is asked, what is this calamity? And then it repeats again, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ. Is calling us to become aware. And what do you know with regard to what the calamity is? Al-Qari'ah. What do you know with regard to what is the Day of Judgment? What do you know about that event that will be distressing, that will cause people to only think about themselves and disregard their loved ones, disregard the wealth that they have, disregard their station and their position? They will only be searching for their own survival on that day, the Day of Judgment. And then the Quran comes and describes it. يَوْمَ يَكُونُ النَّاسُ كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبِثُوثِ. On that day, human beings shall be like scattered moths. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْإِحْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. And the mountains shall be like fluffs of carded wool in varying colors. That which was once still and permanent, and it seemed like it was immovable. You know, you ever heard the term faith that can move mountains? That term comes about because of the reality that a mountain is something which is so strong, something which is so stable, that it is really at first glance not something which you think can be moved so easily. On the day of judgment, these mountains will be as balls of wool, so to speak, fluff. And the reality of varying colors is something that is interesting, because we know that the soil at different levels in a mountain has different colors, so that the mountain itself will be like balls of wool, but of different colors. And then now is where we begin to see a core message that the Quran is sending us that deals with the present life. The Quran is telling us of what is to come, and is bringing us back into the present reality, so that we appreciate our lives and time and our actions, that we become purposeful, we become responsible. The Quran says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقَلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. The person whose scale is heavy, right, shall have a blissful life. As though the Quran is telling us that the person who occupies their time with doing good, it's not just salah and so on and so forth, but salah is a core issue, but doing good in the world, being a person of uprightness and righteousness, that person is a person that in this calamity is okay. That person is a person that overall the calamity may hit, but that person will enter into a blissful life in which they will be pleased. And then the Quran comes and talks about the other category of person. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. And with regard to the person with a light scale, فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَ نَارٌ حَامِيَةٌ. Even the language changes. The Quran now says that that person shall occupy a deep pit that will be the dwelling place for that person. And then the Quran stops us so that we reflect. And what do you know what that is? What do you know what that pit is all about? And the Quran describes it, Narun Hamiyah, a blazing fire. And so here at the core, one of the things that is established as a point of Aqidah is the relation between the scales, al-mizan, that will weigh our deeds, and the reality that there is a day of account, of judgment, and the reality that behind that are two dimensions. The dimension of the believers, which is a life of bliss and pleasure and happiness, and the life of those who they squandered their time on earth. They disbelieve in the reality of the day of coming to account for how it is that they lived in the world. And they will have to face what it was that they rejected, which is the truth of existence, that Allah exists. That Allah created this world with a purpose. The human being is brought to account. That there's a day of judgment. That there's scales that weigh our deeds. And there's consequences for actions. And there's reward and punishment. At the end of the day, Surah Al-Qari'ah reminds us of the importance of a meaningful, purposeful life, and extends to us the promise of hope and joy and well-being that is without end, and that is Jannah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.